Hello, Seiiti Arata. When things get out of control, somehow we need to develop fortitude and self-control. I'm not advocating that we extinguish or deny emotions. On the previous video, how to control your worry, you probably remember, it's Arata SE, Hello 10. You probably remember that the state of denial will lead to anxiety. Instead of repressing emotions, we will transform them through clear judgment and inner calm. This video is about how we can use logic and concentration to achieve a better state of tranquility. When you finish this video, you will be better equipped to deal with uncertainty, with problems and stress, transcending life's adversities. And here's the key idea that I ask you to please write down. Are you ready? Here it goes. People are not disturbed by things, but by their interpretation of things. I will repeat. People are not disturbed by things, but by their interpretation of things. In other words, it is not the outside events that make us feel something. It does not matter what other people are saying, how the weather looks like, what kind of car you drive. None of these things matter compared to something much more powerful, our interpretation of things. Ultimately, what affects our internal peace and stability is the story we tell ourselves inside our heads. For example, it's not the traffic jam that is stressful or that office colleague that is stressful. It is our thoughts about the circumstances that are causing us stress. In essence, we cannot always control what happens to us in our lives, but we can control our reaction to what happens. Now, some of you may disagree with this idea, but please stay with me. Notice our tendency to blame or place undue emphasis on other people or external events. The economy is bad, politicians are dishonest, our boss is not fair. But the actual source of stress is how we interpret things like this. What if I'm able to change jobs or find ways to avoid traffic jams or not have to deal with that boss who yells at me? Is constantly controlling or changing the circumstances the answer to how we can have peace and stability in our souls? Or am I just running away from reality and seeking a short-term fix? That does nothing to help me to develop long-term resilience. For instance, when I was a child, I was allowed to run around the block with my friends. I'll get dirty. Sometimes I'll drop a cookie on the ground and I'll eat it if no one else was looking. But so many children today live in a literal and figurative germ-free world inside protective walls, which actually reduce their critical thinking and ability to cope with the inevitable challenges and adversities inherent to life. And in fact, in many ways, the more we try to protect ourselves and protect our children, the more vulnerable we become. The less able we are to deal with the many circumstances in our lives that are ultimately beyond our control. When we are exposed to misfortunes, we can use them as opportunities to strengthen ourselves. People who have never been unfortunate, they are lucky the opportunity to acquire the tough skin that they would otherwise develop by enduring hardship. The ability to adapt is crucial, and this ability can come by no other means than to be exposed to adversity and to develop the skills necessary to overcome it. Moreover, when we stop running away from the challenges of life, we can truly appreciate the times of peace. First, learning to adapt and to overcome the inevitable adversities in our lives give us the means to be sincerely grateful for what we have and thereby experience a joy that transcends the circumstances of our lives. The next time you run into an obstacle and feel resistance, don't become overly fixated and focused on what's around you. Instead, look within. We can change the things that we have control over, but we must also be able to recognize and accept the things we can't change. Indeed, we should give our best shot to solve problems, but we must also be prepared in case the desired results do not materialize. We must be engaged, optimistic, but also ready for anything. And I mean anything. And above all, we must not be fearful to concern about what doesn't matter, because this will drain us emotionally, mentally, and we could use that energy, our focus, to solve our problems, be able to discern what is solvable and what is not.